участники революции достоинства.
The day during the Revolution of Dignity, many protesters went to the Ukrainian parliament and demanded that MPs take steps to end the crisis and return to the 2004 constitution. They were unarmed. The demonstration itself was called a peaceful protest, and nobody could have imagined that it would end in bloodshed. 10 people were killed during some of the worst clashes between the security forces and protesters. Hundreds were injured.
Volodymyr still cannot believe that he was forced to run for his life in the center of the Ukrainian capital in the middle of the day. We were completely surrounded not just from Institutska Street, but also from Hrushevska Street. A crowd of people was there. The main attack began on Institutska. The Titushki followed the Berkut police. They had these bandages attached to their sleeves to make them stand out from the actual protesters. Volodymyr and 10 other protesters ran into one of the buildings in an attempt to escape from the Berkut police. In Ukraine, the name Berkut police became synonymous with police brutality. I was the last to run into the building before the door closed in front of the Berkut officers. The protesters couldn't stay there for long. The armed men began throwing tear gas through an opening above the door into the hallway of the residential building. The gas made it impossible to breathe and my eyes began to water. I couldn't see. Volodymyr and the other activists began knocking on all of the doors looking to hide from the Berkut officers and the other armed men. We saw the Berkut and the Titushki from the window. For me, both of these groups of men represented hooligans and bandits. It didn't matter if they wore a uniform or not. Every time Katerina Shapoval leaves her building, she is greeted by a photograph of her smiling son. We met with Miss Shapoval in her house. She lives by herself after the death of her son. Miss Shapoval didn't know her son was taking part in the Euromaidan protests until it was too late. Serhiy had kept it a secret. She saw a photograph of her son in a news report about the people who were killed during the protests.
At first, when I saw him, I didn't believe my own eyes. No, that couldn't be him. I began calling him, but no one picked up and the calls were unanswered.
2 days later, on February 20th, she identified his body.
I've never experienced anything like this.
Serhiy Shapoval was shot once in the chest and once in the stomach. Forensic analysis showed that he was killed with bullets used for hunting animals.
I would like to see Ukraine's former president Yanukovych behind bars. I would like Zakharchenko to be imprisoned for life, and all of the Berkut officers as well.
Investigators suggest a type of hunting ammunition was used to kill and wound protesters on February 18th. Hunting slugs were discovered in the bodies of dozens of protesters. Most of the lethal and non-lethal injuries were caused by large types of hunting slugs. At the time, officers were allowed to carry firearms loaded only with rubber bullets. Hunting slugs were absolutely forbidden. It may not be clear what type of ammunition was used to kill more than 100 people during the Euromaidan protests. Still, the presence of any type of lethal ammunition contradicted claims by the former government. Now, some 4 years later, the investigation continues.